We're back on myself. Mike Singer here, driving through Miami, Florida. Actually, let me clarify that. Michael Van Schaik, pronounced in Holland, Van Schaik. Van Schaik. It's a name that people can't pronounce and they can't spell, so when I wrote my children's music books, Grand Staff and His Musical Friends, which happen to be the greatest musical, entertainment, educational resources on the planet, and that is a fact. You can see that that's true by going to musicbooksforkids.com. I used the pen name or pseudonym Mike Singer because it's musical and it's easier. Mike Singer, that's my pen name. It's also my stage name. When I get on stage, go to the blues clubs and jam, or go to the rock clubs and rock out, Mike Singer is who everybody knows me as. So I am Mike Singer. Mike Singer, driving through Miami, Florida. And I want to say I recently posted on Facebook that I am the most profound and prolific thinker in all of human history. So I'm just driving down the road, and I recently posted a video, a message to Obama on the Second Amendment and the right, to guns, all this easy access. He's always talking about the guns being the problem, when really it's sick minds that are the problem, not the guns. I addressed that issue in another video. I might touch on it on this one. But here's what I really want to say. Look, the bottom line is, you hear all these anti-Obama people that are against Obama, people that call the Obama administration criminals and thugs. Eric Holder, a Chicago thug criminal who's in a position of power in the White House. And it's either true or it's not, right? But here's the bigger problem. Let's assume that half of the United States of America voted for Obama, even though I am absolutely convinced that the second election on Obama was rigged. I absolutely believe that. The reason I believe it is because when Obama ran against John McCain, it was a pretty close race, and Obama filled the House. How could Obama fill the House and fill all the theaters and amphitheaters and everything that he did the first go-round and just beat McCain, by a little bit, and then come the second term after his hellacious first term, when you knew nobody was going to vote for him for a second term? How could it be that only a third of the arenas were filled in comparison to the first go-round? You heard it all in the news. Only a third of the show up. And people who said they voted for Obama the first time who weren't going to vote for him the second time. For him to get elected the second time, I'm personally convinced that we no longer have a valid election in the United States of America. That's alarming. And it needs to be addressed. It needs to be looked into. But again, who's going to look into it? And this is the bigger issue. This is what I'm starting to hone in on, is why are things the way they are? And there's two reasons. One is there's two classes of people in the world, basically. There are decent people who uphold, traditional, family values, Judeo-Christian morals, ethics, family values, church-going people that believe in God, people that hold to morals and decency. And there are people who don't care. So the whole issue of gay marriage or not gay marriage, homosexuality, being a perversion, the Bible calls for the condemnation of homosexuality. Yet people claim to, the Bible to be the Word of God, but yet, such laws are what? Are they outdone? Are they archaic? Are they of old? Was there a reason for them? What, they don't exist anymore? Just a lot of contradictions with that. And I challenge religion all the time. I do believe I believe we're here by creative design. I gave my life to the Creator. People say God. I don't like to use the word God because God can be used for anything. I just stopped at a gas station. Let me fill up. Let me see if I can turn this back around. By the way, look at the ridiculous gas prices. In fact, at $3.05, I'm not going to get gas here. It was $2.79 further down, which is ridiculously overpriced. And here it's $3.05, so I'm not going to give them my money. And whenever you see a gas station, see, look at that one over there, $2.79. How could that one be $2.79 and this one be $3.05 for regular? So if you're at this one, what is that, a Chevron? Don't go to it. Go to Shell instead. And aside from that, hopping on the good old 826 north of Miami, I'll turn this camera back around. While I'm on my way to get some gas at a lower priced gas station, even though it's overpriced at all the gas stations, I'll continue this conversation with the world, at least with the United States of America. love the United States of America. I believe in the sovereignty of the United States of America. I believe in the United States flag. I believe in patriotism. I believe in our sovereignty. I believe in the value and the righteousness of patriots and Christian people. So I'm not going to get religious on anybody, because frankly, I see a lot of wrongness within religion itself. To me, Christianity, while it might be based upon a man, Jesus Christ, who may well have been God in the flesh, he may well have been perfect. Again, I wasn't there, so I don't know. The religion that arose and evolved after his death and alleged resurrection, which I've got no problem with that, because the Creator can do anything. I just wasn't there, so I don't know. But I will say that over the 2,000 years subsequent to Jesus Christ's death, burial, and resurrection, per the tradition or the story of the biblical account, there's no doubt in my mind that the religion has just evolved and finagled into just a whole bunch of man-made garbage. So again, on the Bible, I think there's a lot of value in it. I've said many times on Facebook, people who hold to the Bible as being the perfect, infallible Word of God. There was a time when I did. I became a born-again Christian myself and went to church every week and studied the Bible. I won't get into that on this conversation right now. That's also on my website, PresidentMike.com. I give a brief on my personal history and experiences with regards to religion and giving my life to Jesus and studying the Bible and reading it like a book over from beginning to end, from Genesis to Revelation twice, studying with Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists. My great-grandfather was a Baptist preacher. I know all about the Bible and religion and Christianity and becoming a born-again Christian. It's just that my mind has evolved, and I believe, again, knowing that I can, it's not a matter of picking and choosing. It's a matter of using the God-given mind I have to say, well, okay, here's the Bible. The number one problem is that it's got man's hands on it. So because the Bible is of man, because it has human influence, that inherently makes it not perfect. So I certainly have to, take a position of, okay, well, there's good, valuable things in the Bible, and there's things within the Bible that I can even read that are contradictory and that I disagree with and that are very much man-made. There's Bibles that were not permitted into the Bible. There are books that were not permitted into the Bible by those men who put the Bible together, humans who put the Bible together. So without getting into a big, religious controversial conversation here, I'm just going to basically say that I do uphold genuine Judeo-Christian ethics and morals and principles and family values, and that's, I guess you could say, part one of the two problems we have in this world, and particularly in our nation, the United States of America. And that is that there are two types of people. There are the righteous, and let me define who the righteous are. Are the righteous like perfect people? They don't sin, they don't have any evil ideas, they're just perfect in every way? No. The righteous are those who favor that. The righteous are those who favor goodness, who favor truth, who favor justice, who favor what's right, who favor what's moral, who favor what's decent, regardless of what they might do in their private bedroom, struggling with their addiction or their crutch or their weakness, be it smoking or drugs or drinking or pornography or sexuality, whatever it might be. Nobody's perfect. Again, the story is that Jesus Christ was the only man who was perfect. So if in fact Jesus Christ was God in the flesh and he was perfect, then he was the only perfect man. But he also said, be ye perfect like your Father in heaven who is perfect. So what does that mean? Well, I'm not going to claim to be perfect, even though I'll say I overcame smoking, I overcame drugs, I overcame pornography, I overcame violent tendencies, I overcame vices of every sort, really. I've struggled with them all throughout my life and overcame them. So, am I perfect? No, because, I can certainly make mistakes. But does that mean I'm not perfect because I can make a mistake? Well, perfect, I guess in many ways we could say it's all subject to interpretation. What is perfect? You know, I can see a particular woman and say, she's perfect. Because in my eyes, she's got the perfect eyes, face, body. She's beautiful and sexy and incredible. Wow, she's perfect. You know, well, is she perfect? Wait, she's got a personality. What's that? What's a character? You know, is that going to come into play? You know, what is perfect? You know, is God perfect? Hey, the Bible, borrowing from the Bible itself, says God is evil and good. God is both good and evil. They shall be like us, knowing both good and evil. Wait, knowing good and evil. So is it evil to know evil? Well, that helps me define who the righteous are. The righteous are those who can be all around sin. They can be around people who smoke, who take drugs, who do wrong things, and choose not to. By choice. Everything is a choice. But again, people can be weak, and therefore they struggle against it. They might drop down on their knees and ask God for forgiveness. Well, now those are people that are on the right path. They recognize they've got a weakness. They recognize they've got a flaw. They recognize they might have a fault, and they're endeavoring to overcome it. They might be doing it by dropping down on their knees, asking God for help. They might be doing it by going to a psychologist every week trying to get help. I've gone through all of that myself. And as a result, they've overcome a great deal, if not everything in life that I need to overcome. I'll say I have. I've overcome everything. I have, in fact, overcome everything. So, there was a time when I smoked pot, gave it up, overcame it, never did it again. There was a time when I took drugs, quit, overcame it, never did it again. There was a time when I drank alcohol. I don't put alcohol in my body. I never will, for many good reasons. There was a time when I had violent tendencies that I succumbed to. Overcame it, don't want to be that way. There was a time when I was addicted to pornography, just had to look at that porn, check out that porn every day. It controlled my life. I overcame it. Does that mean I can't look at something that's pornographic? I can. I'm not addicted to it. It doesn't control me. So the real difference, even with anything, any sort of addiction even, is does it have control over your life? Well, none of those things have control over my life. I have control over my life. And ultimately, that's what righteous is. That's what perfect is getting to the point where you have control over your life and you're endeavoring to do the best you can with your existence. It's what I tell people all the time. I jokingly say, I am that proverbial old man with the gray long hair sitting in lotus position on the mountaintop that people are trekking through the Andes to climb the mountain and ask him, what's the meaning of life? I tell my students all the time, I am that man and I know what the meaning of life is. It's simple. Do the best you can with your existence. Do the best you can with what you have, and do the best you can with your existence. That is the ultimate meaning of life, the purpose of life. And obviously life is short. Life can be very unfair. So ultimately, all we can do is the best we can with what we got and the best we can with our life. Now, getting back to the crux of this conversation, that there's two types of people in this world. I think we've already established that there are those that uphold decency and truth and justice, and there are those that don't. There are those who do not. Now think about this. People can get in positions of power, be it they become an attorney and a judge, be it they become a politician. They're now getting into a position of power and control over society. Do you want the righteous, those who favor the idea of a good, loving God being in existence, those who favor good, wholesome family values, those who favor morality and decency, those who favor goodness, those who favor what's fair and just and true and right? Do you want those type of people being in political offices, in judicial offices? Or do you want thugs, criminals, people who will be bribed, people who don't give a damn if there's a God or not, they don't care and they don't believe there is, and people who are just basically selfish, self-centered, who are going to do what they want to do, and it's all about the money, if they can get it through bribes, if they can get it by getting in positions of power, if they get it through being a drug addict, a drug salesman, a drug cartel person, a criminal, somebody in government that allows drugs to run across the border so that drugs continue to come in here so they can keep their evil, perverted system going. Well, now we're getting into the other side of it, and that is, we know there's two types of people in the world, good and bad, which again, essentially the Bible says, you know, when it refers to the second coming of Jesus Christ, that, you know, he's coming back to reap the fruit, right? Reap the fruit. And to, gather the wheat, burn the tares. So clearly the world has good and bad in it. It seems to me that the good people, the righteous people, just sit on the sidelines and they let the the bad, wicked, bad-minded, evil people take control of the reins. It seems to me that the good people hide out in their churches and they get stuck in this mentality of, well, Jesus is coming and this is the devil's world. Well, gee, what a mentality. If this is the devil's world, why should I try to do anything here? Why should I try to do anything righteous here? I'll just wait for Jesus to come back. Gee, if Jesus is coming back, money doesn't matter. Material things don't matter. Nothing matters in this world. I'll just sit on the sidelines or hide out in my church and wait for Jesus to come back. That's the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems I see with Christianity on the whole as a religion. Somebody asked me on Facebook the other day, what's the biggest problem with people's view on Jesus and Muhammad? I told them some people's view of Jesus might not be nothing wrong with it at all. Some people's views, the problem with it, the main problem with it, is a lot of people who are religious-minded, they allow that concept or their focus on Jesus or the Bible or God or religion essentially to diminish or detract or completely take away their own God-given free will and their own personal existence, their own free will, their own ability to, their God-given, free will to live and learn and experience and to overcome. I mean, after all, Jesus said, he who overcometh, the same shall be saved. Well, again, we talk about saved. There's always different interpretations to things in the Bible because what does that really mean? I like to think that the Creator is so powerful that anybody and everybody can be saved. I mean, to say otherwise is to limit the power of the Creator. Some people believe in reincarnation, some people don't. I've seen a lot of things that almost are proof positive that there is such a reality, that the body is simply a vehicle and the soul enters the body and we experience life in the body. The body's just a vehicle, our soul experiences life in it, and we come back and we do it again, we come back and we do it again. That seems to make more sense to me. It's certainly a way that the Creator can give somebody more than one shot at developing and becoming, quote unquote saved. If the Creator's in charge of all things, if the Creator's in charge of every atom and every spirit and all things, and he saw this all-loving God, greatness, goodness, I would think that he'd say, well, gee, this person's pretty wretched, I'm going to have to kind of, put their soul back in another body, let them come back and try to get their act together again, And it could be that some people are just so bad that every time they come back, they get worse and worse, and they ain't going to get better. And that would represent those that eventually, inevitably, are going to have to be burned up and destroyed. But again, if God is so loving and endlessly patient and loving, and died for all of humanity, well, it seems to me he would wait 1 billion lifetimes to save a soul, right? So there's a strong argument to be made there. But again, trying to get back to the crux of this conversation, there's good and there's bad. Righteous people, wake up! Why are we allowing thugs and criminals to run our government? Why? It can be argued that the United States of America and the United States Constitution was ordained by God Almighty. It was an inspired nation to be a light unto the world. And it's certainly losing that just by virtue of how the righteous are permitting perverts to run the television that comes on primetime every night, to run Hollywood without any laws or restrictions or governance, particularly for the welfare and benefit of young, impressionable, innocent children who learn, who are taught, who perceive, and they're being shaped and molded by all the perversion and violence and immorality that's being pumped into society through television and through Hollywood and through violent video games. So why are the righteous, those who favor goodness, which would be all of you people who claim to be Christians, allowing for bad-minded, ungodly, lawless, thug criminals to run our government? Why? Well, again, it could be that there is a problem, first of all, with term limits. There needs to be term limits. When a politician gets into office for 30 years and it becomes their career, obviously they are bought out by corporations. Obviously they're bought out by criminal thugs who have money that pay them to get what they want done. So there's a problem. So term limits would help to do away with that, because by having term limits, if you get a thug in there, he's only going to be in there for 4 years, 2 years or 4 years, and he's out. And then you can replace it with some righteous person who can get in office and make things right. So first of all, a whole lot more people that consider themselves to be Christians need to stop hiding out in churches. They need to be more political minded. They need to get into office, and they need to bring righteousness into our society. We have what is frequently referred to as the moral decline of our nation. That's obviously clearly happening. This conversation could get deeper into some people say the Vatican, which again, if you look at the history of the Roman Catholic Church, there was thousands of years where, over 1,500 years where popes ran the world. Kings had to answer to them. That system still exists. 500 years ago, they were burning people at the stake for their Protestant Christian beliefs, Yet, we allow Catholics, after the Protestants, essentially Protestants, those fleeing religious persecution in Europe, came here to fleeing over taxation from the monarchy, fleeing religious persecution by the Roman Catholic religio-political, by the way, system, which also the Islamic Muslim religion is a religio-political system. It can be argued that Judeo-Christianity is a religio-political, and it could be, and it should be. I mean, you're talking about righteousness and godliness being what's within, law. But it's not an outright religio-political system in the same way that the Roman Catholic Church is, or the Islamic Muslim religio-political system is. Christianity lends itself more to, freedoms and independence and individuals collectively, deciding through a democracy. So what I want to really say here, I guess, because I can go on many different tangents, and hopefully I will address all of my tangents on video as time goes on here. We cannot have politicians staying in office for more than one term, because especially if they are corrupt, and many of them are, then they're there continuing to aid corruption. We cannot have corrupt thugs getting into office, period, if we can help it. So we have to have a way. I put it on PresidentMike.com. I said the answer is what I call the Patriot Action Plan. There needs to be a way for those who are righteous, and again, we know who the righteous are. They are those who favor godliness, favor what's right, what's true, and what's just, what's godly, family values, what's good. Somehow or another, those types of people, those like-minded people, essentially people who believe in the United States of America, who believe in patriotism, who believe in the American flag, who believe in genuine Judeo-Christian ethics and principles and morals and family values being the fabric of the United States of America. Those people need to find a way to unite, have an organization, just like, hey, there's the NRA. Well, knock, knock, NRA, you need to be involved in the development of this new organization. Anybody who's a member of the NRA, anybody who's a member of the Heritage Foundation, anybody who's a member of a patriotic organization, anybody who's a member of a constitutional organization, anybody who's a member of a Christian church should be a member of a one group, one banner, one organization that's got clout and power, because they've got attorneys, they've got generals, they've got police officers, they've got people, they've got soldiers that are righteous. And the righteous people. Do I have this camera? Yeah, I do. I have it facing that way. The righteous people need to take the helm. The righteous people need to take control of the reins, need to steer the direction of the United States of America, because clearly corrupt criminal thugs have been doing so for far too long. That's essentially the crux of the matter. I'll try to address some more issues a bit later, as I am now going to pull into a parking lot, find a parking space, and teach some students how to play the guitar, the piano, drums, bass, singing, music theory, reading music. Catch you later.